welcome to Generations. My name is Beverly Crosby, and today we're going to talk about changing times. Come and join us as we take a little trip down memory lane. But before we get started, let's meet our co-host. Well, hello, everyone. How are you today? Nadia, so good to see you.
It's good to be here again. I always love doing this show.
Gloria.
I love it too, and I'm glad to be here today. I think we have a really interesting and fun show ahead.
David, I know you're going to have some stories today. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, when you get to be my age, it's good to be anywhere, but I got stories, yeah. Way more than we have time for.
Okay, and Lynn Garthwaite, I am so happy to have you here. You're filling in for one of our regular co-hosts. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. And the topic sounds exciting. I'm very excited about this.
Well, the first thing we're going to talk about just briefly is the good old days. Everybody's heard that term. I have a question. What does that mean? What does it mean to you personally? And were the good old days really that good? Nadia?
You know what I feel about the good old days and what I miss? I miss the naivete, mine and a lot of the people that I knew. Maybe not everybody had that or felt that, but I miss the innocence. We've lost a lot of that. So it was the good old days in my mind.
And I don't look at it as good old days. Partly because of my own personal style. I look at what's now and what's coming as to be the best part of my life. So good old days were old days, and some good and some not so good.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Lynn.
Well, I hear people reminiscing about the good old days as if it was something great, but it wasn't always great for everybody. I mean, women didn't have opportunities and careers, you know, if they aspired to something, often they didn't. You know, people of color didn't have the same opportunities, of course. And I remind people that, you know, Leave It to Beaver was not a documentary. That's not what life was like. So it often gets a little bit skewed in our memories.
Yeah.
I think the reality is it's a really complex issue. And just to say, oh, it's nicer now than it was then, or vice versa. There's so many facets to life that even you mentioned Leave It to Beaver. I would not want to go back to 1960s entertainment technology, where there were 5 channels, and if you weren't there at 7:30 to watch Leave It to Beaver, you were out of luck, you know. So I think it's really a mixed bag.
Yeah.
You know, I'm surprised that you said 5 channels. We had 3. You had 1. Oh, well, tell you what, we're going to do something kind of fun today. We're going to take a little walk, a quick walk down memory lane. We're going to watch a little video here. So let's hang on here. I'm going to hold that up.
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
that was great.
25-cent gasoline.
Yeah.
Oh, so
That was fun.
So first of all, thank you all for providing all those great photos just so we could have a chance to go back a little ways.
I
Anyway,
recognized everybody.
what's that?
I recognized everybody.
Yeah, we haven't changed that much, have we?
No.
Not at all. Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the changing times. Let's talk about the fashions and the trends. They say that history repeats itself. Do you think some of those trends are coming back?
They are. There was a picture of me sitting on the front steps in pedal pushers.
Yes.
Pedal pushers, that was in the 50s, and pedal pushers I had made for myself, which of course we could not wear to school because we could only wear dresses to school, skirts and dresses to school at that time. And it was just, we did some good fun things and some not so fun things. One of the best things that we did in the 50s was in 9th grade, I went with a group of girlfriends to see Dick Clark. Dick Clark was in Minneapolis, and he was somewhere there by Lake Calhoun in Minneapolis. I don't know the place we were. We danced with the girls also, and we had a ball. It was one of the most fun things I did as a young person. I saw Dick Clark too.
Nadia.
That sounds like loads of fun. And yeah, the fashions, many fashions are coming back. Bell bottoms are coming back. Crop tops, midriff tops, they never really left. But the bell bottoms are big and strong now. And of course, those were fun.
Tie-dye. You see tie-dye shirts. Only we used to do our own. Now they manufacture them.
And the what used to be the pedal pushers or that kind of thing now are capris. So, but
Capris,
remember,
right.
I think it was in the old Dick Van Dyke show. What was the wife's name? Laura Petrie. She really made those popular. She wore them well.
Yeah.
I'm wearing capris right now.
There you go.
So I have always liked
Yes.
pedal pushers. And with my pedal pushers, I wore saddle shoes. How many of us had saddle shoes?
Sure.
Saddle shoes. And the flat shoes are back.
Yes.
I'd like to say I follow fashion enough to know how to answer that question. And of course, with COVID, I haven't been in a store so long. I don't even know what's on the racks anymore.
Right.
I do remember in junior high, though, the big thing was to have penny loafers, not with pennies in them, but with dimes.
Yes.
That was kind of classier. And then Madras shirts. I don't think either of those have kind of come back exactly, but I remember going to JCPenney to make sure that I was in style and had my Madras shirts and penny loafers.
I can't picture what a Madras shirt is. What do you mean?
Plaid.
Yeah, it's-
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
You're too young, Lynn.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It should come
All
back.
the fashions. I wish I had a picture of it. I had a brown and white polka dot pair of bell bottoms that Cher would have loved. And with it, I wore a crop top, again, brown and white sheerish fabric that was tied, up high. So there was a whole lot of bare belly there. Oh my word, how I could wear that outfit. I can't imagine.
Yeah. And
Well,
so
one
many
thing-
times it was celebrities that set the style, like Cher being a big trendsetter and kind of what you're describing. So,
Exactly.
One thing that's definitely changed that I wouldn't have expected back in the day, if you had denim, you had jeans, you just had jeans. And if there was a hole in the jean, you fixed it.
Right.
And it was something to be kind of embarrassed about.
right.
And now it's just for, I guess, decades been fashionable for people to have frayed jeans that have intentional holes in them. And I don't see that exactly going away. And that's always a little bit jarring to me to see people who have purposely put holes or have holes in their jeans.
I patched them. I patched the jeans, and my little boys wore jeans with patches on top of patches.
Okay, let's go on to another topic. I know the such broad, there's so many things we can say. Who had a favorite car? Who had a very favorite automobile? Or did you have a car? Or how did you get around back in those days? Or did you have one car, like a one car family?
Well, when I turned 16, my parents were trying to be very gracious, and I should have been more appreciative at the time, but they bought me a used car, but it was a Rambler Rebel. And, you know, if you remember that period, Rambler was, even then, was not exactly the go-to car if you wanted to look trendy or anything. And so I drove the Rambler, but it was a little bit embarrassing, but I should have been more appreciative that they bothered to get me a car at all.
Yeah. What about David? You took a trip to Europe once, didn't you? Did you backpack at that time to get around?
Yeah, I just went around Europe for 7 weeks with a frame backpack and a Eurail pass. And it was hard, but memorable. You know, I had a lot of good experiences. But
Well, and it was safe too, wasn't it? I mean, we thought it was safe anyway back then.
yeah, I mean, I didn't really worry about that. I mean, at the time in Spain, Franco was still the president, and he was very authoritarian. And you'd walk by a government building, and there'd be 2 soldiers there with machine guns. And I talked to some of the people in Madrid about crime. They said, no, nobody commits any crimes here because they're too afraid they're going to get caught and punished. So it felt very safe throughout Europe at the time.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, we've experienced a lot this last year. But there are times that you could take a metro bus and you're very safe, but there's other times that's not such a good idea. So, you know, things have changed, I think, a lot in that way. Well, let's talk a little bit about communicating. How do we communicate? And the old dial phone, and who wants to talk about that?
Oh, the music.
Well, we had a rotary phone all through those years, and of course a party line where, and you could always tell when someone was listening in on your conversation. Someone always was too. And there was the trick of you pick up the phone, you push the button down. I guess I must have listened a couple of times, and you put the phone up, but when you hang up, you push the button, you let it go very gently so that it doesn't make that click when you're listening. And the same as when you're hanging up from it. There was a way to do that and be virtually unheard.
Yeah, but some of our viewers probably have no idea what you're talking about with a party line. So just to be clear, you would share a line with another household. In our case, it was the Hesses who lived like 3 doors down. So if you picked up the phone to make a call and there was someone talking, it was one of the Hess family. And you'd have to wait till they were done talking before you could make a call on the party line.
But if there was an emergency, you could break in, they could hear you, and you could say, we have an emergency, can we use the line?
Go ahead, Lynn.
One thing I remember is growing up, everybody had shortened numbers because they had like almost like nicknames. Like our number began with the numbers 888, and that was shortened to Tuxedo 8 because the T and the U were part of on the rotodial on 8. So everybody referred to their phone numbers, at least in my neck of the woods, as like Tuxedo 8, then you'd give the other 4 digits or whatever. So it was kind of a shorthand way now. And at that time, we all had the same area code. So nobody had to add their area code if you were asked your phone number, because we all in the Twin Cities or greater Minnesota, everybody was 612. And so that was a little bit jarring when you had to start adding your area code when people would ask your phone number.
I think most of us remember our first phone numbers, right?
Yep.
Right? Mine started with West 8. West 8, and I lived in Hopkins.
Yeah. It was sort of charming to have those designators rather than just numbers out. You know, ours was Glenview 4, 3466. And there was Taylor and Capital and these other, and it sort of humanized the number a little bit by giving it a name.
I think so.
Right.
So how does everything change? I mean, we used to write letters, used to type, correspondence, businesses, how has that changed today? How do people communicate today?
Oh,
Go ahead, Nadia.
I had a transistor radio that was my prized possession. And I would lay up in my bedroom every night and listen to that until the battery would die. And then I'd save up my allowance to buy a new battery for the doggone thing.
I learned to type on a manual typewriter, and my mother was phenomenal. She could type 100 words a minute on a manual typewriter. I think I got to maybe 60 or 65 or something like that in high school, which was pretty darn good on an old manual. But imagine now when we typed on an old manual typewriter where you'd have to roll in the paper. If you made a mistake, you had to roll it up, scrub it out with an eraser or something sharp, and then type it again and hope it would work. If you were typing forms, you had to type the whole thing over again, right? Oh, and now we send emails in the middle of the night or whenever we happen to be on our computers and think about sending a message to somebody. And it just goes through like magic. It finds its way. And to me, it will always be magic.
I was a history major in college, and I did all of my term papers on a manual typewriter. So
Yeah.
I remember very much. And if you would mess up something up, you might end up having to retype the entire page, just to fix it. So bad time.
My wife gave me a electric typewriter when I started graduate school. And I thought that was so cool because you even had you could have like 3 different fonts. But, cut and paste, now that in those days, it literally was cut and paste. So I had scissors and Scotch tape. And that's how I would reconfigure a document, was by cutting it into pieces and repasting them and then typing it yet again to have a final version.
Yep.
Those were not the good old days.
No.
Do students learn the fingering anymore, or is that just kind of a free-for-all? I don't know.
I don't know.
The QWERTY fingering it's still taught.
Good.
And that's the way keyboards are yet.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness we have internet, and we can be more social, and there are people who, there's pros and cons about the internet. We all know some people don't think it's safe, others think it's the best way to go, and they put all their information on the internet. But overall, it's the greatest way to stay in touch with family out of state, out of the country. It's pretty amazing. Okay, let's talk a bit about entertainment, the old days.
Oh.
What did you do back then?
When I was in high school, we had a place called Caper Club, which was wonderful. And it was held in the Armory in Northfield, where I went to high school. And every Thursday night was Caper Club. And we would do almost anything to not miss Thursday night. Of course, we got there. It was a jukebox. We didn't have live music or anything. When we got there, the boys lined up on one side and the girls lined up on the other side. And we danced some in the beginning. It was kind of hard. The girls danced together, but the boys did get involved. And by the end of the evening, we were all dancing with each other. It was wonderful fun.
We had the Blazer and the Purple Peanut in Pine River in Nisswa, Minnesota. And one of the kids in our group of friends had a car. He was about 2 years older than the rest of us. And he would run around and pick up 4 or 5 of us. We were a group of friends, and we would go every Saturday night and dance all night long. There was no liquor served. There was just soda. I don't know how they made their money. I think there was a cover charge, but it was affordable for teenagers, and we would dance all evening long.
Go ahead.
When I heard the question about entertainment, I was thinking about what television was like in those days. And you mentioned earlier how few channels we had, but I remember kind of the big thing, and it seems like all the families did this. Sunday night TV was family night, and they had shows, whether I think early on it was like Bonanza, it became shows like Mission Impossible and things, but it was kind of things that all families were sitting around watching together at night. So Sunday night was Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. Those kind of variety shows were really big. And that was something that people would look forward to all week too.
Yeah, I think Ed Sullivan was Sunday night too. That was the big one in our household.
You're right.
And of course, people go to movies. You could bowl 3 lines for $1. So we used to do that kind of thing. Movies were really dominant, though. Even I had a friend who I went to college with who lived in Miller, South Dakota. She was always proud to say it was the 33rd largest city in South Dakota. And I went out to visit her one summer, and they went out to a drive-in movie. And I had never seen this movie before. I forget what it was. They'd all seen it like 3 times. I said, "Are you sure you want to take me there again? I mean, we don't have to go to the movie." So no, this is what we would do anyway. We'd go and see it a 4th time. So it's a small town.
Yep.
I remember 25-cent movies.
Yeah.
Oh, you're older than I am, Nadia.
You know, but there was not World of Warcraft or Minecraft or any video games, and
Right.
so you did something else, you know.
Absolutely.
And didn't somebody, I heard that television shows actually went off like at 10 or 11 o'clock or midnight, something. Did anybody, I don't think when I was growing up, we didn't stay up beyond a certain time.
Oh yeah, well I was a late late sleeper, you know, late riser, whatever. And usually the channels signed off at 1 a.m. and they would always end, there'd be a religious message from some member of the clergy. And then that would be followed by drum roll, the national anthem with the flag waving. And that was always how they ended. And then they would shut it off, and then you'd see the test pattern. That's how the broadcast ended. Yeah.
I remember that because I was babysitting at first for 25 cents an hour. And then actually later I got to 50 cents an hour. I was babysitting 5 monstrous boys who were absolutely horrible. They would do terrible things to me. They were just awful. But I would watch TV until it shut off at, I think it was midnight, right, Dave? Around midnight.
I thought it was 1 a.m., but it might have been midnight in some years and in some stations, but somewhere in there. It certainly wasn't all night TV.
Right.
We don't have a whole lot of time left, but let's talk about the workplace. How has the workplace changed?
Again, I've got a story here about the workplace. My first job, now after babysitting, when my first real job came, I was basically a secretary. I was working in an office, and my boss, there were just the 2 of us, and he would chase me around to touch me. He would put his arm around me or pinch me or grab my cheek or something. And it got to be a ridiculous chase. I'm running around between these chairs and tables to keep this guy from touching me. And I never told anybody because this was my first office job. And I thought that's what it was like in the world. I didn't know. I never told anybody or said anything or complained. And what a difference in today's world, in our workplaces, where we have discrimination, where we have harassment and all that sort of thing. It is just amazing. But that was in 1960. Yeah.
Okay, and Nadia, you had given me a picture, showed me a picture.
My early jobs, and that was my first real job when after I graduated and came to the Twin Cities, a factory job at Honeywell. And I was using a schematic and putting together, I was a certified solderer and putting together the automatic pilot for jet airplanes. I was very proud of that job. It was about the best paying job anyone could get without a college education, because I came straight from the farm. You didn't go to college. Girls didn't go to college that much in those days. And it was a good job.
One of the things I noticed was that it was mostly the men were standing overlooking the women, because men used to be in management and women were more the laborers, right?
Oh yeah, that's the way it was.
And wages weren't even remotely close, even if a woman held the same job. And it's not that terribly different today, but even if they held the same job, they wouldn't get the same wages, because, and the concept was men should get more because they're the head of the household. You know, this is the thinking. And so there are some things in what Gloria was describing, some things that were definitely not the good old days.
Right.
I think we've come a ways in that regard. I think of my son's employer, where lunch is free every day. On one wing of the complex, they have a climbing wall. On the other side of the complex, they have a koi pond, so that people can have meetings that are thoughtful and deliberative in a calm, peaceful setting around the koi pond. And you know, that kind of thinking, you know, creating a climate or culture in an organization, that's 21st century innovation. It's not the way things used to be. It was just get the work done, damn it, you know.
Right.
Well, with that, we are just about out of time here, so we got about a minute left. Real quick, if you each could pick something to bring back, you know, from the good old days, or maybe not so good, what would that be? Just in a quick few words or a sentence.
And I can't think of anything, so they must not have been all that good, other than the loss of our innocence. And
I wanted to pick up on that word innocence. Nadia, you mentioned it earlier. And I think when we were dancing at Paper Club in high school, we weren't drinking. We weren't sneaking out to cars to have beers or whatever. There were no drinking or drug issues that I was aware of course, when we were there. So it's become so prominent now. We have drinking and drugs everywhere, and in schools, in junior high, and it just frightens the daylights out of me. So I would like to bring back some of that innocence.
Okay, we just have a few seconds. Go ahead, Lynn.
I was just going to say, kind of the same vein, simplicity of life. We weren't pushed and pulled in so many directions. There weren't, and maybe fewer opportunities, but life was simpler and maybe a little easier on our mentality because of it.
Yeah, fewer demands. That's what we need. There was an era when people joined bowling leagues and had activities outside of work, and we've lost that.
Okay, well, we got to wrap it up. Boy, this has gone by fast.
Really?
And, yeah, really. And it's been fun and takes us back. So anyway, thank you, Nadia and Gloria, Lynn, and David for co-hosting today. And viewers, thank you for joining us on Generations. We'll see you next time.